Return, O Virgin Daughter of Israel, to these your highways by which you went. Welcome to Reunion Roadmap, a place to discover the people and communities along the highway of restoration for Israel's House of Joseph. Reunion Roadmap is a B'nai Yosef North America production. Be our guest for the next hour as we meet the people of the emerging House of Joseph here in North America. This is Stefania Pappas from B'nai Yosef North America, and with me is Al McCarn, our Executive Director, and we're going to our last part, Part 3, in our interview with Margot Crossing from Australia.
Yes, this is the exciting part where we get to Margot's initiative, the 10 in 10. And she will explain this idea of we're a 10-year period of time getting peoples from around the world to retrace the steps of the 10 tribes going back to Jerusalem and being there for Sukkot each year. It's quite an undertaking. It's very ambitious, but we serve a God who is bigger than our imaginations. So if he is calling you to do something, well, then step out on faith and do it. So you'll hear about year zero being next year, which is 2024, when Margot will be going again with a representative of the Mizo people from Northeast India to trace their path going back through Central Asia to Turkey and then down to Israel. People from around the world can do this, coming all the way from Southern Africa, from West Africa, from the British Isles, from all parts of Europe, from all parts of North and South America, because truly the seed of Abraham was scattered into all nations. Why is it that we have trouble accepting that?
Yeah, it's kind of like somehow we can't conceive that when the Father mentioned about the seed of Abraham and how it would be like the dust of the earth. And it's like, we can't believe that the Father was being literal in his description, how the seed would be spread and how the signatures are there when you look at them. And when you hear Margot talking about it, wow, you can see the imprint. It's there.
It certainly is. This is why it's exciting to talk to Margot and hear she's just an ordinary mom and grandmother from Australia. She was called, she answered the call, and now look where it's leading. I imagine we'll be talking about this for several years to come.
Oh, yes.
But for right now, let's go on and finish our conversation with Margot and learn about the 10 in 10.
These are biblical stories,
Yes.
But here was this people group and a priestly classes people group were keeping alive these rituals because one day it was going to be important. And then,
Yes.
Yeah.
And just to mention, because many of our audience is North American, and we're aware over here of the Native American tribes with similar stories. Similar linguistic patterns and cultural traits. In fact, I know one story of a Cherokee man who was in Jerusalem, and the Jews there he was talking to, when he pronounced the name of God in their language, they were amazed because that's the name they don't pronounce, and the way they don't pronounce it, because it is so holy.
Yeah.
But it's all over the world.
Yep.
No,
it is.
and the reason I wanted to bring up this about the lost book and the possibility, and I realize it's conjecture, but it's a good hypothesis. The dog ate my book. Well, if it's the Emperor Qin Shi Huang of the Qin dynasty in 213 BC, and he has done this despicable thing, and therefore he's referred to culturally now, 2,000 years later, as a dog, or at least that's how he appears in the story. Well, here's what clicked with me. The People's Republic of China, again, the one China policy has for the last 70 years consistently gone about obliterating ancestral records and histories like this, cultural identity markers. And it seems to me, when I read this, what you put in your paper about the lost book, it seems to me that's been a constant thing in China and probably around the world.
Hmm.
And it's,
Yep.
if there is any central orchestration of such a thing, I would say it would be our adversary who does not want to see God's people reassembled.
Yeah.
And that's why, yeah.
And as my friend Jane Hilliard would say, nice try, but.
Yes, nice try, but. Which, okay, this is a good place to transition into the new initiative that you would like to talk about, the 10 in 10.
Yeah.
What is that?
Okay, so my initiative, which is why I'm on your podcast, and how we're going for time. Oh, I've probably used up most of the time already.
We're good.
With my stories, I love the stories because the stories just glorify God, and that this is a really important topic for him. But I've got now four Mizos who want to go across the Silk Road because. We're going to skip China for obvious reasons, which we've just talked about. Mm-hmm. But what we want to do is retrace our steps. We literally want to do the Jeremiah 31:21 verse, that commanded Israel to set up way. And it's really, and if you look at the context, it's Ephraim it's being talked to.
Yes.
It's, is Ephraim my dear son? Okay. It's in that context. We're talking about the 10 tribes. Okay. And so in that context, they're told to set up waymarks and come back the way that you went. And so that's what we want to do. We want to actually, because we've already found some of these markers, linguistics, cultural, maybe some physical markers. So we've already found some because we've already been to Kyrgyzstan once. And so we found that little phrase. And of course, their ancestor is Manas, the Mizos is Manasseh. It's not a hard leap to say it's probably the same name. And, and of course, the people in Kyrgyzstan they also have a lost book. And their lost book, it's the Kitai Khan, which means the king of North China burnt their book. They actually have, that's how they put it. They've probably got the most accurate translation of all of the books, of all of the stories of this lost book. The king of North China burnt their book and wanted to put them into oblivion because now they didn't have their laws to live by. I think it goes something like that. But we've been to Kyrgyzstan. So what we're going to do is we're going to start in Kyrgyzstan, probably go a little bit to Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and then we're going to cross the Caspian Sea into Azerbaijan, and then into that region of, the Caucasus Mountains around Georgia, which is where we all know that around the Black Sea, where Israel was taken captivity to. And then we're going to go to Turkey and then fly over to Israel for Sukkot. And so we're hoping to do that next year. And we're hoping that 3 other teams would want to join us, not traveling with us, but retracing their steps. And I think I've got a team from Korea that want to do theirs. Okay. They might think that they've actually come around the sea as well from India, maybe. So, they might want to go back that way. I'm not sure, but it's up to them. Whatever way they think they came to that part of the world, and that they retrace their steps back. And, what we want to do is, video our evidence, put it up on a blog site, and so that many other people can see, our journey and our retracing our steps with the mind to say, here are cultural markers, like way markers, signposts to these people were here, 2,000 years ago, whatever. And so, even though we're, thousands of kilometers and, thousands of years from this site, we've still got the same cultural things going on. And so that's the idea. And so next year we're going to call Year Zero. It's our pilot scheme, so, and the teams that go with me are, they're going to be the diehards from, the Lost Tribes and the Reunion people. So what I want to then do from 2025 to 2034. So that'll be the following, not next year, but the following 10 years, that I want to have an ever increasing lot of teams going, retracing their steps during summer and then ending up in Israel for Sukkot. So that's the idea, that, you know, we pilot it, we sort of work out the issues and the problems next year, and then we put it forward in 2025 as year one, and that you know, that we sort of start a movement, sort of a little bit like, you know, people making pilgrimages to Israel, but instead of just we want to go and retrace the steps of Jesus or whatever, or we want to go to the Holy Land, that we're actually doing it with this purpose of awakening the world to how widespread the 10 tribes of Israel went across the world, and that there are people that know that they're related as family all across cultures, all across nations, all across languages. And that's a very unifying thing. You know, even if you're not religious in any way, the fact that we would want to bring a unifying story of all mankind probably being related to each other, I think has to be a really good thing in and of itself. So I think it'll get widespread support as we put out the promotions, and we'll probably do a video of next year's trips so that we've got a little documentary that people can watch. And, you know, especially once it gets to Israel and you get a bit of news from living in Israel. And our idea is that we take our traditional temporary dwellings with us, or get them flown there probably ahead of us, so that when we go to Sukkot, we actually live in, like, for example, if you're from Kyrgyzstan, you're living in a yurt. If you're from Mizoram, you've probably set up a bamboo hut, you know, one of the traditional ones they put on their fields to, you know, get out of the shade during the, you know, the sun, the midday sun. And so that's the idea. And I'm calling it 10 in 10. So it's the retracing of the 10 tribes over a period of 10 years. And then I'm hoping at the end of the 10 years, there's a widespread acknowledgement that God's really bringing the tribes back together. So, you know, so you'll have people from Ireland, people from Wales, people from Northern Europe. Yeah, everybody will be doing a different journey, but, you know, and we don't, there's no rules. People don't need to, you know, run it past, you know, anybody. It'll be just whatever their little team thinks is their research is showing them. Yeah.
Well, why not? The International Christian Embassy Jerusalem has been doing this for years, with calling people to Sukkot for the Parade of Nations, but not in the sense of the tribes returning.
No, they haven't done that.
Yeah. And as you're talking, I'm envisioning, we could, some documentary miniseries. That would be really awesome. Season 1 of the 10 and 10, season 5. Yeah. And following people all the way from, let's see, Nigeria, South Africa, from everywhere.
Everybody's got a smartphone with a good camera on it now. You can upload it to the internet in no time, and and then you put a little documentary of all of those little videos together and just show how widespread this awakening is.
Absolutely. Now, the people who will be going with you and those you'll be encountering, they're not all Christians, though. And that might be a question that the audience might have. This is not strictly an awakening among those who profess to follow Jesus Christ or Yeshua the Messiah. It crosses religious boundaries. That kind of blows my mind here. So how does that happen?
I don't talk very publicly about the time that I went to Kashmir, but I literally did a Passover in a hotel in Kashmir, and all of the people that came were Muslims. And the old professor who I'd met, I think he was in his 90s, the young man who was supposed to bring him failed to pick him up. Well, they knocked on the door. He didn't answer, so they thought, he's too old. He doesn't want to come, and left him there. And so when he realized that he hadn't, he wasn't being picked up, he put himself in a taxi and came to my little Passover, which was the other side of the lake. Well, this man was a Sufi mystic, means a like he's a Muslim Sufi, like, yeah.
Yes, but I studied a little Sufism, so I understand where you're coming from. He's
Okay, all right, okay.
very mystical, very devoted.
Very mystical. And so he had been the head of Central Asian Studies at Kashmir University, and he had spent 20 years using the research sources of the university to look at the migrations of Israel into Kashmir. 20 years. He'd spent 20 years doing that. And so I met him in 2015. I met him again in 2016. Both times he suggested I do something with the University of the Kashmir, which I ended up having, what's the word? A memorandum of understanding that they wanted to, do that, maybe not overtly, but they wanted to have a migrations through Central Asia conference with that as being part of what they were looking at. Both times I went to do that, India and Pakistan blew up over the border in Kashmir. So both times that went into curfew, and so that didn't happen. But I wrote a paper for their journal, which is up on the academia.org, and then that translated into me going to Kyrgyzstan to speak at the conference in Bishkek. So if I hadn't done those things, but I've still got a young man there who's I think he's got his doctorate now, and I'll probably try and get him over to Japan at some stage to meet the Japanese. Well, he's a Muslim. He's very religious. He's a lovely, lovely man. But all of these people definitely think they're part of the lost tribes of Israel. Like, sort of like, and this is what he said to me one day. I was sitting across from his office, and he said to me, do you think if I went to Israel, it would be safe? This is what he said to me. He's got one of those Muslim beards that look, like, the first time I saw him, I went, we're all dead, like that's how he looked. Okay. Because, very typical of, of a very, religious Muslim. Anyway, so he's asking, and I said, there's lots of Muslims in Israel. He says, I don't want to go to the Muslims in Israel. He says, I want to go to the Orthodox Jews. Do you think I'd be safe? This is his question. So he's still young. I'm still hoping that one day I can fulfill his dream of going to Israel and meeting the Orthodox Jews over there.
Well, we'll pray toward that, because I think there might be some receptivity to meeting him among the Jews of Orthodox Jews of Israel. It seems that, and the reason I asked this about the various religious backgrounds is our Messiah is reassembling his nation, and they were scattered literally into every nation, every corner of the earth, every ethnic group, every religion. So we're about to have some more paradigms overturned.
Yeah, Richard Hewitt and I talk about this all the time, that it's going to look so different.
Yes.
we're just gonna have to keep our hearts open and our hands off everything. That's how we sort of think about it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, so once again, that's the 10 in 10 initiative. 2023, that's year zero. Or is it 2024 is year zero?
2024 is year zero. So if, like, for example, if there's some people in North America want to do something, like, even if you want to start in, what's your background, Scottish?
Yes.
Yeah. So even if you want to go to Scotland, start from Scotland, and go across to whichever way you think you came, and then end up in Turkey, and then Israel, or just go fly into Israel for Sukkot. If you want to do that,
My brother and I have been talking about going back to Scotland and tracing our roots. So maybe I could just twist his arm a little bit, and we'll keep going.
Okay. Yeah. So that's the idea. And I won't be doing that next year, but because my roots are Scottish and Welsh, and so I'll probably one of those later years probably fly into Scotland and do retracing my roots from Scotland and back into Israel that way. So but not so next year I'm sort of helping the Mizos travel, so that they don't have a lot of money, and so if they travel with me, I can sort of bail them out at different points.
Well, the Lord bless you for this, for taking that position and helping our sisters and brothers from Mizoram to retrace their steps. Now, if anyone is interested and wants to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Well, the easiest way is my email, Lost Tribes Found, just all one word, Lost Tribes Found at bigpond.com.
Lost Tribes Found at bigpond.com. All right. Well, Margot Crossing of Woiwai, Australia, and of Mizoram in Northeast India, and of wherever it is that the 10 tribes have been scattered, thank you so much for sharing your heart with us. This is exciting news, and I pray that the Lord's blessing go before you in this 10 in 10 initiative.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Al.
From Lenny and Varda, I Am Yours. From their album Journey of the Bride, available at lennyandvarda.com.
Chosen for your bride. Could it really be that we will journey side by side? I long to know your heart, your smile, your touch, the way you pray. I'm such a lover of no other. I am yours. I'm trusting in the promises you made the very day a covenant was sealed before you had to go away.
I said I will come back the very moment all is done, when my Father's house is ready for the bride of his dear Son.
Could it really be that I am chosen for your bride? Could it really be that we will journey side by side? I long to know your heart, your smile, your touch, the way you pray. I'm such a lover of no other. I am yours. One charge you left upon my heart, to trust in all your ways, as I concentrate on growing into perfect bridely ways. This princess bride of such a king shall fear no harm while preparing to walk beside her bridegroom, the one true coming king. Could it really be that I am chosen for your bride? It will really be that we will journey side by side. I long to know your heart, your smile, your touch, the way you pray. I'm such a lover of no
Shalom, everybody. Welcome to the Mid-Rush portion of Reunion Roadmap. This is David Jones. With me today is Barry Phillips. Shalom, brother.
Shalom, David.
I'm reading through some things with the scriptures, and at the time of this recording, we're getting ready to finish the book of Shemot, the book of Exodus, coming into that and different reading schedules and what have you. But as I'm reading through here, I see something interesting that seems to be mentioned more than once in regards to the building of the tabernacle and the preparations for the tabernacle and everything in here. And we know that the purpose of the Mishkan, I mean, Yahweh says, build me a sanctuary that I can dwell among them. We touched a little bit on some of these things on a previously recorded Midrash talking about Betzalel and dwelling in his shadow. But one of the things we find in common here is people brought, but not every, it doesn't say everybody brought. It says that Moshe put the need in front of the people and everyone went back to their tents, and it says, and then they came. So if we say, who's the they? Well, this is reiterated again when we get back to Exodus 36, verse 2, where it says that Moshe summoned Betzalel and Aholiab and every craftsman whom Adonai had given wisdom, everyone whose heart stirred him to come and take part in the work. And this is the thing that I'm thinking about. So when it says earlier, when it says that the people came and they gave, it was, who were the ones who gave? The ones whose heart stirred him to come and to give. Who took part in the work? Whoever heart stirred to come and take part in the work, Yahweh filled them with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of how to do what was at hand, so that they could do this, so that whoever's heart stirred them. I think the biggest issue here, he didn't say find the absolute best at what they do and then put them in this position. He said, okay, they have a knowledge of this, but bring them to me if their heart has stirred them to do this, and I will equip them with my wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to do the job at hand. And so the idea, the making up factor here is the stirring of the heart to build the house. The purpose of the house was to prepare a place for Yahweh to dwell among us, which we know, breaking down the Hebrews we have before, it doesn't necessarily mean among, but literally within. Yahweh showing us in the picture of the building the tabernacle, that's the same imagery we get as the building of creation and the building of the temple and the building of you, body, soul, spirit, and building of you are a picture of the tabernacle. And all of this coming into, all these things must be in agreement. If our heart stirs us to something, then we make that a priority. We make that something, sometimes we get fixated on things and it's like, I have to do this. I have to do this. And that's what I'm looking at is, do we have that kind of fervency about the kingdom and about dwelling in unity with Yahweh and dwelling in unity with one another? Do we have that kind of fervency in dealing with his house, building his house, his kingdom, his place? And a couple scriptures I have in here is that if our house is divided, is Yahweh going to dwell in it? And I mean this in a matter of it can relate to, in scripturally, the temple and the tabernacle, but it can relate to our homes. It can relate to us personally as a place for Yahweh to dwell. Like James says, not to be double-minded. It means you're unstable, right? Mm-hmm. So Yahweh says he will not dwell in a divided house. We see this in 2 Corinthians 6:16-18. Not going to read the whole thing, but he says, what agreement can the temple of God have with idols? You are a temple of the living God. So what is our temple used for? What are we doing here? Are we having our hearts stirred to prepare the place for him to take part in the work, or are we divided in focus, divided in heart? I want, Yahweh's presence and his life and his kingdom and all these things, but I'm only going to be concerned about it on Shabbat. Not during the rest of the week too, when Yahweh, wants us to actually live and to do these things outside the walls of a meeting, gathering, or a place. Yeshua said that the houses that is divided won't stand. So as a larger picture, the kingdom of Yahweh, our house is divided. We have so many people who are focusing more on the things that divide us instead of our hearts stirring us to come and take part of the work. Too many people sitting back, criticizing instead of jumping in and helping. A couple different areas we can go on this, Barry. What do you think? Where should we go with this?
There is a Barryism that I came up with some number of years ago. I guess pastoral experience and so forth has motivated him. But my understanding is, David, that people will do what they want to do. By that I mean, if people want to be at your Shabbat gathering, they will find a way to get there. When they come this time, they don't come a few more times after that, then they come back, and then you may see them for a while, then you won't see them for a while. People do what they really want to do. If you want to do something, you will find any reason you can, and that's enough. You'll do it. If you don't want to do something, even if you know you need to, you will pick any number of excuses from the list that you can create. And you will always find enough excuses that one of them will sound almost legitimate. So, when it comes down to it, people say, well, I want to get out of debt. If you want to get out of debt, it's not going to probably happen in a week's time, but you will find a way to do that. You will you'll be consistent, and you'll do whatever painful steps necessary, and you'll get there because you want to. If you don't want to, well, we were doing good, but I found this deal. I found, it was just too good a deal to pass up. I had to spend the money. I had to borrow the money, etc. Anyway, it comes down to you do what you want to do for the most part. There's always exceptions, but that's a good general rule. It says in this translation that I have here, the scriptures, that whose heart lifted him up. What is it's going to motivate somebody to get up out of the chair and do something? Well, if you're hungry enough, you'll get up and go make a sandwich. If you need to pay your bills, you're motivated to get out of bed or get up from your seated position and go to work. Motivation goes a long, long ways. And that's kind of what I'm reading here, David, is that the people who were motivated, those that were stirred up with an understanding of this is a righteous and worthy cause, and I will put my hand to it. And I will not only start it, I will finish it. Was it in the book of Luke, I think? I remember it's the last verse in the chapter where Yeshua said, no man having put his hand to the plow and looking back is fit for the kingdom. You got to stay focused. A lot of well-intentioned people will start something, but after the novelty of whatever the endeavor is has worn off, and now it's up to just walking it out and seeing it through, people will lose steam, they will lose their motivation, and they will let go. And I've done it, others have done it, we all have done it at some point, I'm sure. So motivation is wonderful, but if motivation doesn't convert into a continuum of momentum, then we lose steam and quit. I'm a football fan, especially college football, and Big Mo will get on the field. Momentum will swing from, one team is blowing the other one out, and next thing you know, momentum is switched, and the underdog has come back and has won the game. It's happened numerous times. So it's one thing, David, for folks to say, that's a good idea. I think I'll be willing to help that with that. If that motivation doesn't gain momentum, and if there's not some initial success, if there's not some, what's the word I'm looking for? If there's not some sense of camaraderie and people are helping out, then people will quit. Sometimes, how many times has this happened, David? Everybody is a group of you. You start out on a project, and one by one, they find excuses that they can't show up to continue the project. And it comes down to one or two. And they say, well, if no one else is going to help, I'm not doing all this by myself. I'm done. I quit too.
Yep.
You know, what if that was the case in the building of the tabernacle, where Bezalel and Aholiab were the only two working on it? Where did everybody go? Do you know how long this is going to take now that everyone's quit? But it comes down to this. It's not how you start that's so important as how you finish. You have to stay committed to the end. Shimshon or Samson started well. He didn't necessarily finish well. Solomon started well. He didn't finish as well as he could. How many of those in the scriptures that we read about, they started excellent. They started with a great deal of momentum. They didn't necessarily finish very well.
That's I think it's one of the things Ref Shaul was talking about, you know, run the race that's been put in front of you and finish it. And, you know, just making sure you don't have to be the first to cross that line, just cross that line, you know, finish it. And I think one of the things that helps with that, and I'm going to use that analogy, you know, running with someone, it's easier when you're, let's say, you know, when you're running and you've ran all that you can run, but you have to keep running. It's easier to do that if you've got someone next to you to encourage you to do that, that you guys have the same goal in mind. This is my responsibility to do so, but I'm accountable to this person sitting next to me to do that. But if I am having a hard time, then this person next to me is going to push me and help me and encourage me to do that. And that's where I think Psalm 133 comes in. You know, beholding how good and pleasant his brothers dwell together in unity. Well, dwelling together in unity doesn't mean we think exactly the same way, do exactly the same thing. No, it means we have the same common goal. We have the same purpose. We're looking to the same thing. And it's not just saying that we agree. It's saying that we will both work together to that end. Yeshua puts it this way, Matthew 18, 19, and 20. If two of you agree on earth and touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done for them. My Father which is in heaven, for where two or three are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst of them. The idea here is when we find people with the common goal, common purpose, and like-minded, we can work together. And Yahweh says that he's going to bless that. He's going to work with us in that to accomplish his plans, not just anything we want, whatever we say. I mean, keeping everything in context, it's a matter of the things that we want are the things that he wants. It's his heart that we're seeking, so these are the things that we want. And he says he will bless that. And how's he going to bless that? He's going to cause us to work together to be able to see that come to pass. And where we come together in that, and where we can do, we do, and where we cannot, he equips by his spirit to fulfill it. But we have to be there. You know, like going into battle, he always says, I'll go before you in the battlefield. That means you have to be on the battlefield. You do have some responsibility in seeing Yahweh move. You do have to get up and move. But he says where our strength fails, he's going to meet us there, and he's going to do the work. I
did one thought here. There are those that were like Bezalel and Aholiab that were uniquely gifted to do this work. Then there are those that were wise-hearted, but then it says those whose hearts lifted them up. Sometimes we're called to do the things that we don't know how to do. You know, Rav Shaul said not many that are wise were chosen. You know, that God specializes in calling the ill-trained and ill-equipped to do the magnificent things. So motivation goes a long ways. If you're willing to do, even if you don't know how, Yah's not above on-the-job training. So willingness will go a long ways. And I would talk more, but we're out of time.
I was hoping you'd talk a little more about what you just said. But, I was interested. Anyway, well, that does put us out of time, though. So maybe at a future time. For today, guys, that's all we've got. If you want to give us your feedback, comments, questions, other things you'd like to hear in the mid-rashes, let us know. We enjoy hearing from you, and we appreciate you reaching out. You can reach us at Reunion Roadmap at B'nai Yosef, NA gmail.com. Till next time. Shalom, guys.
Shalom.
Here's another original song from Bill Green, A Love That's Waiting.
Captured in a vision, I could see beyond the walls. Sailing on life's ocean, I hear the waves begin to call. Facing troubled water, I steer to find my way above the circumstances, and I'm kneeling down to pray. How long can we survive as we drift into the sea of endless time? Up ahead in my vision, there's a ship against the tide. It was my good intention to avoid it by my pride. A voice came from the captain. He said, "My child, climb aboard. Leave behind your old ship. I see it's battered and it's torn. Now I have a better guide that can get me through the hardships of life. There's a love that's waiting patiently for you. It's a love that breathes new life, that heals the wounds. Picture now this place where all your dreams come true. This is a love that's waiting patiently for you. Is it now still water, a place to rest my weary head? I'm sailing a different ocean, steered away from the devil's bed. Listen now, my friend, you see, to this life's analogy is finding that promised ocean that is far from the reckless sea. And it's been waiting there for you. You see this joy I have, you can have it too. There's a love that's waiting
Hey, that was Bill Green. A Love That's Waiting. You're not going to find his music anywhere on a website or anything, because he's a worship leader and he's just gifted at doing his own original music. And we are blessed to have some samples of what he's produced. But you will find Lenny and Varda at their website, lennyandvarda.com. And they were our first musical guest, singing a selection from their Journey of the Bride album, which fits nicely with what Barry and David were talking about, of those who are willing to answer the call of our Creator, whose heart stirs. That's the name of their midrash. Stefania, what stood out to you in what they were sharing?
Well, they were getting into talking about the Mishkan, and that's how we're actually looking at it in these particular Torah portions.
Well, what they had shared is something that I had been thinking of for the last couple of days. As we read in the last few chapters of Exodus about all these people who brought the offerings to build the Mishkan, the wood, the cloth, the gold, the jewels, the silver, the bronze, and then the workers. Of course, we know of Holiav and Bezalel, the skilled craftsmen, but others with them. The question I have had, and Barry and David addressed this a little bit, is of the 603,550 men of Israel and their families, what percentage of them actually brought materials and what percentage actually did the work? Is it like what we see in our churches and congregations today, where maybe 10% of the people can be relied on to contribute their money, their time, their skills, and everyone else is just there? Was that something that Moses and Aaron and the other tribal leaders that they had to deal with, of a majority of the people who, they're just kind of interested in being there, looking out for themselves, but contributing to the bigger picture, the greater vision, maybe not? What do you think?
I would suspect, given how they're in one place, it would be so easy for one to stand out if they weren't participating. And I would just think that from that standpoint, there was probably a lot more participation going on in these contributions than were, for instance, what we see today. Because we're scattered, we're not in this one place where the whole nation was together at that time. And I think there would be like, a lot of times in Scripture it talks about being cut off from your people, and it would give a sense of, if you didn't participate, that you were being cut off.
True. So I've been pondering the motivations. Some might give out of obligation, some out of fear.
Right.
Some, having seen what happened with that golden calf incident just a few weeks earlier,
right,
might have repented and turned around.
Yep.
But how many of them actually had that vision that here is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, he's called them by name even.
Yeah. There you'd have a remnant, I believe.
Yeah, as it always had been.
Yeah.
And always has been to this day. But may that remnant be multiplied greatly.
Yes. Hallelujah.
Because the mercies of our God are everlasting.
Amen.
Well, I think that will do it for this edition of Reunion Roadmap. And so if you have enjoyed what you've heard here, please go visit our website, BneiYosefNA.com, BneiYosefNA.com. We continue to populate our website with articles, with links, with resources that we think would be useful and interesting. So do check those out. And if you are so moved, click on the donate button, because we're always willing to engage with those whose hearts are stirred to partner with us. So this is Al McCarn on behalf of Stefania Pappas, Barry Phillips, and David Jones. Thank you very much for listening. Shavua Tov.
Thank you for joining us on Reunion Roadmap, a production of B'nai Yosef North America. Please come back next week for another visit with the people of the emerging House of Joseph here in North America.